September 23rd at noon Pacific to vote. So the election is not open long. Please do not forget to vote. We have 2 Twitter chats coming up on Monday, September 21st. The first is at 8 a.m. Pacific time in the U.S. The second is at noon Pacific time in the U.S. So come out, ask the candidates some questions. Speaking of questions, we're going to go about 20 minutes here, and we're going to ask Ryan a series of questions. I've got some ready just in case, but I really hope that everybody attending here has some questions and can ask those through the interface. You should be able to raise your hand by clicking on the hand button somewhere on your screen, and then type that in the little question tab. We are recording this. The recordings will be available on the PASS website here in the next few days. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ryan, who's going to give us a short introduction. So take it away, Ryan.
Hi, folks, and good afternoon. As you all know, my name is Ryan Adams, running for the PASS board. My day jobs that I work for Verizon, I've been with the company for, let's see, including contracting times, 2015, so about 17 years now. But in that time, I've done a lot of different things. I started out on desktop. I was actually in high school when I started. I moved up from desktop to server, went into Active Directory, and then I fell in love with SQL Server, and I haven't turned back since, nor do I plan to. So that's kind of my history there. I work in the automation department, so we do a lot of automation. We do a lot of identity management stuff, and I support all the databases on the back end of that, including all of our mobility stuff. As you can imagine, our company, we're pretty big on the mobility side, so I support all the back ends of that as well. I've been involved in the community for over 10 years now, and I've done a lot of different stuff since I've been in the community. I think I was at one of the SQL Server launch events, and one of the local Microsoft guys was up there speaking, and he happened to mention, hey, there's this thing called a user group that's local here. I looked it up and went and attended my local user group, and I just fell in love with it. I was in a position at the time where I had no training at all. They wouldn't pay for training. There was no way for me to get any training, yet I was expected to learn all these new skills and do all these new things with SQL Server that I had no idea what I was doing and had no good access to. And that was where I really fell in love with the community, to be able to get that help and get that assistance. I'm even to this day pretty much the sole DBA for my group. So to be able to have a network and other folks to lean on to help me out when I need that, and to be able to help other people is a huge, huge thing, and has really boosted my career. And to be able to help other people in the way that I've been helped is a huge thing and a huge goal for me, and something I've really strived to do. And I dug into the local user group here in Dallas. I live in Dallas, Texas. And I've been on the board of directors for 5 or 6 years now, I think. I've held every position on the board at this point. And I just love it, and I don't plan on leaving anytime in the near future, at least until they kick me out. So, but yeah, it's been great. I mean, we've taken our user group. It's not the biggest, but it's a big group. We run 60 to 80 people every month, and we put ourselves in a really good financial standpoint. We've worked very hard to be fiscally responsible, to make sure that we're doing the right choices from a financial standpoint for our group, to make sure that we have a future. If we can't find somebody to take care of pizza and sponsor us next month, we're not in the position where we're going to be in a major, a bad position. We're going to have that covered, and we've worked really hard to make sure that we do have those funds available for when the hard times do hit. So we've been doing that for a while. I helped Aaron Stellato reboot the PASS Performance virtual chapter about 4 years ago, I think. Since then, I mean, the attendance was like maybe 25 to 30 people at the time. Now it's anywhere from 200 to 300 on a regular monthly meeting. During our yearly annual Performance Palooza, which was an event that I created, it was 8 back-to-back sessions, all performance related. We do that once a year. There was one year where we did it twice in a year. We grew that by, just this year alone, we grew that by 174%, and we trained 3,000 people in 8 hours in one day, and it was a great event. And those are over 300 usually per session there. And so I've been the president of the chapter for the last 3 years, I believe. Let's see, what else have I done in the community? Let's see, I've been on the program committee. I'm on the program committee doing a special project right now. This is my second time to be there doing that. I have served on the non-com before, back in 2013. was a very busy year. It was a good year. So I've done a lot of different stuff in the community, and I just love it, and I keep digging in more and more. And the more I dig in, the more I enjoy it. And the people, it's just been a really great thing.
Okay. Great. Well, we've got a number of folks that have asked questions, and I do have a favor to ask you. If you're asking questions and you're asking multiple questions, if you can enter them one at a time, that helps me figure out what you've asked and prioritize them. And I'm going to take the privilege of asking the first question, and one of the things that I want to ask is about what you'd like to accomplish. So in looking at a 2-year term, if you were elected, is there anything specific you'd like to accomplish that you'd like to say, hey, I did this at the end of that 2-year term?
Yeah, there's definitely a couple of things I'd like to take a look at doing. One of those is, and there's a really good byproduct of this, we look at women in technology, we look at STEM, and all the different things that we've got with science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and the whole STEM thing. And I think that is an area that we could get involved in. I think it would be pretty easy for PASS with some of the things that we already have, that we can leverage the avenues that we've already got to do that. I mean, for a virtual chapter, for us to leverage that and actually get one of our sessions hosted inside of a classroom for high school kids, college-age kids that are looking to do this stuff, to go, you know what, inside the data platform, what type of industries can I work in the data platform? Because it's not just one industry, right? We span every industry. Every industry relies on technology. I think that we can really have an impact there. We start to look at minorities and women and their involvement in technology and how those things have changed and shaped over time. And for the most part, they still haven't grown. And I think we have a really good opportunity to be able to leverage some of the existing things we have to do that. And the plus to that is because we're getting at these folks and getting them introduced to our organization at such a young age, those are future members. So we're kind of growing our membership at the same time. It's not going to grow right now. It's one of those things that pays dividends, right? We invest in it now, but in the future, we're going to get those members back once they go, oh, you know what? I remember when I was in school, they had this PASS organization. Now that my career has led me that direction, I can leverage that and take advantage of that. And then we've kind of grown members from that level. One of the other things, sorry.
No.
I have another one now.
Okay.
One of the other things I want to look at was, because I am so involved in the community and I'm in all these various different facets and things that I do, I'm able to talk to folks out there in the community that are in these leadership positions that say, you know what, this would be really helpful if I could get this done, but I'm not able to get this done through PASS IT. And I'm seeing these pain points where they're not able to get to it, and it's where the need for technology has become so great that it's difficult to keep up with that demand. And I'd really like to see a little more structure around how we handle that demand. And if there's something that we can't do or other things that we can't leverage to really help boost that stuff and get some help in those areas.
Okay, great. So the next question comes from one of our attendees, and it's a two-part question. First is a strength that you would bring to the PASS board, and the second part is a weakness that you would need to work on the PASS board.
Yeah, one of my definite weaknesses is that I don't like to say no. I'm a people pleaser, and I have always been a people pleaser. And so sometimes I have to check myself and balance that, especially with my time. I have to look at it and say, look, I can't say yes to everything. I can't do everything. I have to find my limitations in order to be able to handle that. I had somebody in the community, I think it was about a month ago, say, I would really like to see you do a presentation on how you're able to do all the things that you do. And there's no magic formula. I wish I could tell you a magic formula that I have for that, but I don't. But that's one of the things I have to watch is I can't say yes to everything, and so I have to be very mindful of my time management with that. As far as a strength, I think one of my strengths would be that, and this isn't a bad thing, but a lot of the folks on the board work for independent software vendors. They are consultants. I'm not. I'm a full-time employee, just like the vast majority of everybody else out there that's supporting SQL Server, and I work for a large company. So I have a lot of mentality on the business side of things that I think will bring a different perspective onto the board that I think will help add to that diversity. And that's one of the great things about having a board, I think, is having that diversity, those different opinions and those different ideas. And I think I can definitely bring a different perspective there.
Okay, great. So our next question also comes from our attendees, and it says, now that SQL Rally is retired, how do you see SQL Saturdays filling that gap, especially internationally where they don't have a large event like Summit?
So I would venture to, so there's kind of two pieces to the whole SQL Rally thing. The first one's going to be here in the U.S. There's only been two in the U.S. There was the very first one in Florida, and the second one was here in Dallas. So I was actually part of the core organizing team for the one here in Dallas. So I know what it takes to put on a rally, and I know how it is to handle the budgets and all the money and make sure all that kind of stuff works, and works a lot with Pass HQ there. But when it comes to looking at the model here in the U.S. specifically, and this is the best really example that I can give you, and I hope this helps put things in perspective for folks, is the SQL Rally we had here in Dallas was slightly less than the amount of number of folks that we have for the SQL Saturdays that we have here. But the cost to put on a SQL Rally to make it look as nice and professional as the Summit does was much higher than what we would do for a SQL Saturday. But the impact to the people is still the same amount of people that we're affecting. So then we have to start looking at balancing how we're spending our money and how we're using our resources compared to the impact that we're actually having on the community, which is the whole point of what PASS is. And I think that is where SQL Saturday and Rally were just too close of a model that they just didn't play well together. And I think that that's what's happened overseas as well. It wasn't like that for the longest time, but it has gotten to the point now where things have grown and there's more SQL Saturdays happening over there. That trend that has happened in the U.S. is now starting to occur over there, where the models are just too close and they compete with each other. It sounds nice and fun and exciting, and who wants to turn off something really cool, right? I mean, it was fun. Who doesn't want to have these awesome events? I mean, I obviously did. We put a lot of effort into doing it here in Dallas. It was definitely not something I wanted to end for sure. But when you really balance it out with the impact and the business value, I think that SQL Saturday is a better business model than what Rally is.
Okay. So I'm going to ask the next question from my list here. Come election time, there's a lot of discussion about new leaders, new people stepping up to run for the board. So first of all, thank you for stepping up and running for the board. And second of all, what can PASS do to grow more leaders, to find more leaders, to put more people in the position to be successful board members?
That's a fantastic question, and I'm actually going to get a little bit lower. So one of the other things I do is I'm a regional mentor for the South Central region of the U.S., and so this is one of the things that I try to do and I look at. And in fact, these are some of the things that even for me running for the board now that I've been thinking about for quite some time, even before I ran, was if I run and I have to balance that time and management, there's some things that are going to have to give. But what I don't want to have happen is to leave an empty hole. So I always feel that as a leader, my job is to groom other leaders, that I need to be able to give them the advantage. I need to be able to delegate things and items and give them the responsibilities and things and say, look, this is something that you can do. Here's how you can do it. I'll help you do it. In order to encourage them and get them excited about doing these things. And I think that is, it is definitely not something that we're going to fix overnight. There's nothing that we can put in place, but it's absolutely a cultural thing. And that is something that we can definitely build, that culture of how do we make our volunteers feel like they are valued. If they get excited about things and they get value out of it, then they're going to be much happier and they're going to want to step up and continue to lead in these things. But we have to start down at the bottom. We have to start with our user groups and our virtual chapters and those types of things before, and as they kind of move up, then I think that we will get some good, solid leaders that we can continue to grow that. Much like PASS is a grassroots effort, it's that's how we really need to grow our leaders as well.
Okay, great. So our next question is about the Business Analytics Conference, and that comes from 2 or 3 of our attendees and from me. And so they kind of ask a variety of questions about it, but they all kind of get back to, is this a good thing? Should PASS do this? Which also talks about the broader question of what is our community? Are we just a bunch of on-premises SQL Server DBAs? Are we a larger entity? If you can just talk to your thoughts around that.
Okay. I think the BA stuff is fantastic. I think it was a good move for us to get involved in that. You always have to grow and change with your industry. PASS is an organization that was built to support folks in a specific industry, and as the industry grows, we need to grow and change with it. And it's not just growing and changing, right? So we have to always continually reassess and look at things and go, look, is BA really the right move for us? Well, I can tell you that for me and my job, and as I talk to other guys at our user group, other folks in the community, they're constantly being asked, how can we get more value out of the data we already have? Companies are looking at this going, we've already got the information. The data's right here, but how do I take that and put value behind that? How can I make better business decisions based on the data that I have? And that's where, some of the BI and BA stuff comes in. And because our industry the trend is growing that way, and all of the businesses are looking that way, I think it's absolutely the right thing for us to do to grow that way. But we have to keep an eye on it, because at any time the industry could change again, and that may die off, and we need to change with that. And that goes for anything that we do with PASS. If anything else starts to change, we need to make sure that we're changing with the industry.
Okay, great. So the next question was asked at the earlier session, and I liked it, so we're going to include it here also. And it's about engaging with Microsoft locally. So I know you guys have a very successful chapter down there. What can PASS do to help all the different chapters around the country engage better with their local Microsoft offices?
Yeah, this is something that there would be something that I would definitely want to tackle or take a look at if I were on the board. And one of the reasons that I believe I have been successful as a regional mentor in my area is because of the relationships that I have, specifically with the Microsoft folks in our region, so that I'm able to do things for my chapter leaders. If they are short a speaker, I can find them a speaker. If they are short resources, I can do that. When Microsoft looks at their budget regionally and how they need to divide that up between SQL Saturdays, that's something that they look for to say, how do I need to split this up between the different events and guidance that they look for? So there's some give and take in both areas, but the problem is that it's hard to find that contact. SQL Server has always been difficult for a long time, because even with the technical evangelists, because SQL Server is kind of IT pro, but it's also kind of developer, it spans these two, we get in this weird situation where the Microsoft developer guy doesn't think we really fall into that area, and the IT pro guy doesn't think we fall into that area. So how do we fix that? Where do we fall in at? And I think that's something that we can address with Microsoft, so that we can say, look, who are your regional contacts? So we can put the regional guy, the regional Microsoft guy, in contact with the RM for PASS in that region. If we can couple those together and build that relationship and that communication channel, then I think that will flow down much, much better.
Sorry, okay. I left myself on mute there. So one more question from our attendees, and this deals with reaching new members for PASS. And they ask, how do we find the people that are not already involved in PASS and not already involved in the SQL community, and how do we get them engaged?
Yeah, that's a great question. And that's a difficult thing to do. And I think that, they always say starting, you got to have money to make money. It's kind of an investment, kind of a thing. And I think there are definitely some things that we can do there. SQL Saturday is actually a really great avenue for this. And some of the things that I've thought about doing, even for our SQL Saturday, is what if I took an ad out in the local paper? Because I'm trying to get in to businesses, and I'm trying to expand this, and it's a marketing thing in order to get out there. So how do I tap into these other resources and markets out there? So maybe I need to use more traditional marketing terms. I mean, if I'm always constantly marketing out through all the past channels, that's great, but that only markets to people that already know about PASS because they're already members of PASS. So how do I get outside of that and market to new folks? Let's take ads out on paper. What if I were to call my local news station? Maybe they'd be willing to do a spot on it. There's a lot of different things. We talked about getting involved in STEM and getting involved a little bit more in the educational type areas. So if we're getting involved more with the local schools and stuff, that is definitely a marketing area as well. So I think there are definitely some avenues where we can gain some new membership like that.
Okay, great. With that, we'll go ahead and wrap it up. I want to thank all our attendees for all the questions and hope to see you again at our next session. And I want to thank Ryan, you, for your service. We very much appreciate everything you've done for the community. And thank you for running for the board.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you having me.